Okay, for people joining our live stream, this is the next and kind of a marathon series of meetings today about functions for the upcoming version of Wolfram Language. So here are a bunch of functions that are kind of connectivity layer functions, and starting with start web session, and we are looking at documentation and reviewing these. So let me see what happens here. So this is going to start a different instance, right? So if I go here and I say, for example, web execute of open, this isn't auto-completing, by the way.
Okay.
That should be auto-completing, right? Is it open page, arrow, this right? I don't have to say the HTTP?
No. You should
Okay,
keep the HTTP.
Okay, so we should probably not require that.
Yeah.
Can we figure that out, please?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so somewhat bizarrely, it showed the Chrome browser come up temporarily as it did that, right?
Great.
Yeah, because it is single shot execution, as you suggested.
It's what? That's doing one-shot execution. So is this?
Yeah.
So this is not creating a session. So if I say,
No. If you start a session.
If I say get page, is that the
No, you first start a session called start web session.
Okay, why is it saying $failed rather than a failure object? That seems wrong.
Okay, I'll include that.
Okay, great. Do we know if the version 12 build is clean enough that I can use this? Okay, so let's go. All right, so web execute is one-shot execution by default. Is that correct? So what I should be saying here, okay, we shouldn't say executes that command in a web browser or something. Executes the command. Wait a minute, is this right? Because this isn't doing it. It's a one-shot thing, right? Is that correct, that it's a one-shot thing if there isn't a current web session?
If there isn't a current web session, that's right.
Okay, so we need to document that a little bit more carefully. By the way, you didn't. It would have been nice if you'd done this with the correct formatting. And by the way, somebody is growling into their microphone. If you could fix that, that'd be great.
So you mentioned updating some of these elements here.
Well, I'm saying this here. You want to say executes the command in a web browser, basically. That's what we should say here. And we should say executes list of commands in sequence. And it returns the result from the last one. Correct?
I think right now it returns a list of results, but we can...
So you have to be clear on what it's doing. So that's fine if that's what you want to do. That's okay, but we have to document that. Right?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Web execute of commands executes the commands in a, what should we say, a one-shot web browser session. If no, I think we should say first, if $current, if...
I think we have a similar comment to below that.
Oh, I know we do. I think it's a little unclear what's going to happen here. Executes the command. Well, let's see. I think we should say at the beginning here, web execute. Effectively, it executes a web driver. Is that what we want to call it? Why isn't web? Okay, that's stupid. Web driver. Come on. well, whatever. I think that should not be driver on its own. Okay. In any case, we should say something about how it executes through a WebDriver. How would we say that? Do you understand my question?
So web execute maybe uses a WebDriver to interact with the browser.
What is the technical terminology? What is the technical thing we're saying here?
It's a little bit.
But just say what you would say technically. Just give me the precise technical description.
It's kind of like an executable or server, so maybe launches or executes.
No, don't, just say what you would say in the most technical description of what this is doing. What is the role of the WebDriver? Listen, we don't have a lot of time, so we have got to get through this fairly quickly.
So I think it interacts with a web browser through a WebDriver.
Okay. Executes commands in a web browser through a WebDriver. Is that right?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay. Execute commands if a web session has been started with start web session, right?
Yes.
Web executor commands executes commands in that session as specified by $current web session. If no web session has been started, web execute of commands starts a web session, executes the commands, then ends the web session. Web execute. So where do we say that what it returns? Wait a minute. Didn't we have some? Oh, yeah. Okay, so this isn't the correct thing. Okay, so hold on. Okay, web executor command starts a web session. Okay, so now we have to say web execute of command. I think we want to say returns either the output of the command or a success or failure object. Web execute of CMD1, CMD2, etc. returns a list of results for each of the list of the results for the CMDI, right? Makes sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Supports the following commands related to web pages, related to complete web pages. Open the specified web page, get the URL of the current web page. Page title, get the title. Navigate to the previous. Do we say navigate to or just go to the previous? I think go to, because I don't know what navigation means.
Makes sense to me.
By the way, somebody is asking about support for other languages and external evaluators, including Julia. Yes, it is coming. I don't know. Is that going to be there for 12.0?
I don't think we'll have that for 12.0. We're looking at a lot of languages right now, though. But kind of finishing that for 12.0 is a little bit too soon.
Yeah, but it will be, in fact, Packlet updatable, right? So it'll probably arrive fairly quickly thereafter, correct?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. Someone was asking, would this functionality allow one to automatically test websites with JavaScript like Selenium? Yes, that is the point. We've been using this stuff internally for a long time, things like this. So actually, let me just check one thing. So the thing that says we have web image, right? Why is that still showing up in that weird context? That's not right. This we have, and this is built in now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we? It's documented, right?
We don't.
Is it documented?
No.
I don't think that one is yet.
Well, so we need to document that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So wait a minute. Was that on the list? I didn't see that on the list for 12.0. So. Okay. So that's something we're going to need here.
Okay.
So. Let's see. Captures. Gives an image. Gives an image of the web page specified. Captured from web page specified by URL. Web page. Is that it? Is that the there must be a bunch of options to this, right? About ping times and God knows what else. Right?
Yeah, we have discussed about that, but the basic version is implemented and the next options will be keep updated. We have not yet come up with many options, but we have discussed some of them.
So for example, authentication is certainly an option that needs to have.
Yeah, that's what you suggested last meeting.
Okay. Okay, so authentication is certainly something. Okay, so this is also URL execute. Probably URL execute and rasterize are two things which this needs to point to, etc. Okay, so this needs to clearly web execute needs to point to web image. Okay, all right, let's go on with this now. Okay, so let's go on with these things here. So let me look at, so if I say locate elements, so for example, let's go to our home page. So by the way, we agree this should return a failure object, right? And that failure object, why isn't this generating an error message that says web execute has been asked to do a command it doesn't know? It should do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so if I say start web session, does start web session have an argument or not? Why does it keep on saying it's in the web unit? Why does it keep on saying it's okay? Now, why do I have this window up here? Do I need to keep that window? What happens if I close that window?
No.
So
yeah.
That is the session. So most things will be done in that window. So if you navigate to web pages, it'll show.
Okay, so but if I close that window, I'm screwed. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we say that in the by the way, this needs to be documented in some kind of workflow thing. Okay, starts a web session and returns a web session object. Okay. Okay. Creates a web session Okay, start web session on an interactive. So start web session will typically bring up a web browser window on the screen. Commands in the web session will be executed with respect to this window. Is that right?
Yep, that's accurate.
Okay, so wait a minute. If I say visible is false, then that's then.
That's what OAB image is doing. It is doing in visible false mode.
Sorry, what is it doing? Okay.
It's a headless session, so there's no graphical.
Okay, by default, we'll bring up a web browser screen. We'll bring up a visible web browser screen. So commands in the web session will then be executed with respect to this window. Will then be executed visibly in this window. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, is there a single window or multiple windows?
We can do multiple tabs, multiple windows also.
Okay. Well, so will it bring up visible web browser windows, plural, or what?
It'll bring up one each time you run it. So if you use start web session.
Okay. All right. So whether web browser window whether the web browser window is visible. Yes?
Yes.
Maybe we should just say with the default options setting. Okay. Creates. Okay. Okay. All right. So here, if I do start web session, all right. So I did start web session there. And now, wherever that window was, where did that go? There we go. So now I did start web session. I got back a web session object. Okay. So now I can say on that, if I now say web execute there, then it'll go there. Why does it say not secure? Oh, because I went to the HTTP version.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I say web execute of page URL. Oh, for goodness sake. What happened?
I think get URL is the current name. I'll change it.
Okay. Well, given that we're changing it, do we want to say URL string for this? Shouldn't URL return a URL object?
If we want to represent it as a URL object, we can, I think. It should be easy to make that change.
Well, do you think it's a good idea? Because in these other cases, are we referring to them with symbolic URLs, or do these other ones have naked string URLs in them?
Strings.
Most of them use strings, but there's only a few that will. I think Open Web Page is the only one that really refers to it as input.
Okay. I think this should return a URL object. Okay. All right. So let's look at these ones. So what do I do here? If I locate elements, if I say web execute of, give me an example, locate elements.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, what do I put on the right-hand side here?
So
just give me an example.
A list where...
just give me a specific example. Just tell me what to type.
Just a minute.
Okay, so under scope, no, this is really inadequate documentation. In fact, pathetically inadequate, if I might say so, guys. Come on. Okay, you should have documentation here, a section under scope for every single one of those things up there. Am I making sense? Every single one of these should have a documentation subsection, right?
Right.
Do you understand?
An entry and scope for it.
Yes, yes, as a subsection, right?
Right.
What the heck is this? This is way too complicated. Okay, whatever. Okay, let's take a look at this. What are you doing here?
Locate elements.
Look, I don't want this. I want the thing I was just doing. Okay, so this case. All right, let's come on. Let's look at this case first. All right. But that's not what I was asking for. I was asking for the locate elements thing. Okay,
the
so
next cell. The next
okay,
cell.
all right, okay, there. Okay, so this gives this. So that does, as you said, page opened successfully. Where did that message come from? Is that coming from the driver?
Yes.
Okay. And what is tag open web page? What is that coming from?
Because we are dealing with this open web page function, so we can see
Which open
page.
web page function? This says open page, not open web page.
Yeah. So earlier the name was open page. Just yesterday I changed open page.
So it
open
needs
page,
to be.
both are supported.
Okay. So, but the tag needs to agree with the tags that are in here, right?
Yeah. That I'll do. Because
okay. All right. Fine. Great.
It was last minute.
Okay. No problem. Okay. So now here, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Let me see what it actually generates. Okay.
So why is it?
Yeah. Okay. So hold on. So let's understand what this is doing here. Okay. So first point is that list. We can remove that list, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now why is that returning a list? So it's returning a list of web element objects because that's the locate elements. That's the result from locate elements.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So depending upon the selector locator strategy, it can return multiple web element objects. So that's why it's a list.
Yeah, I understand. Click a specified element of a web page, right? Or simulate a click on a specified element of a web page.
No, it literally clicks. Why simulate?
Okay, well, I don't know what click means in them. Okay, there is no mouse going click, but there often isn't anyway, so who cares? You're right. Okay, click an element on a web page. Well, click the element. Click an element matching the element matching LM. Is that correct? How is that element specified?
So it can either be the pattern like this selector we just used, or it could be the object it returned.
Okay, what are you sending me in here?
Yeah, I just sent an example.
Yeah, I understand that it can click the ID of that. Right.
Okay, and the last one, percentage.
Okay, can you please consistently use the names that we have specified, please? Let's not have 6 different versions of these names running around. Okay?
Yeah.
So is this is %11 sub 1, or this could be the whole of %11 there?
No.
Okay, so that was a bug.
%11 1, like it is.
No,
as
I understand,
it is
but why isn't this working? I mean, shouldn't click element be able to? It has to be. You should, as a courtesy, you should deal with at least the singleton list case. If you could deal with multiple elements, that would be even better. Am I making sense that you can click a sequence of elements there?
Oh, but whenever you clicks, it goes to a other page. So then the second element will not be accessible.
I see. Okay, fine. Fine. Okay. So, okay, fair enough. But then Okay, but obviously this was a bug here. Whatever happened here was a bug, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm updating those error messages.
No, but okay.
Yeah, see it
Okay.
clicks.
Okay. Click an element on a web page, e.g. a hyperlink. Now, and that element is specified. Okay. Elements of web pages can be specified in any of the following forms. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
A previously located element, e.g. from locate elements. Is that right?
Yeah.
Elements specified using a CSS selector pattern. Okay, so a link, is it a single link or is it the first link on the page?
It'll be the text of that item. So if the item is...
I understand, but if it's a single, is it the first one? Because there might be 25 different ones with the same. You got what I'm saying?
It will provide a list then.
No, I'm asking you if you just give a single. Oh, it'll give a list. So then, okay, all right, okay. Okay, hyperlinks with text. If you call it text, you should call it text, not name here, right? Is that correct? I mean, with text matching, and is it a string? It's like that, right?
I think so. I thought name was a bit weird too.
Okay. Hyperlinks with text, with the specified text. Hyperlinks. So regexes would be nice here, but probably aren't easy to get. Oops, why does it do that? Why does it have to be in braces here? Why do these have to be in braces? I don't think they do. Do they? Why would these be in braces here?
Because this is an argument of local elements.
I think we could make it work without braces. It'll be a little bit odd because it's a rule of a rule.
That's life. It's okay. It's okay. Let's do it. Okay. I think that's unnecessary.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so here, okay, hyperlinks with the specified hyperlinks with text containing form. Okay, tag. What is a tag name as opposed to just, what is a tag? What kind of a tag is that?
It's an HTML tag.
Okay, so that's like an A or something, or a
Right.
Elements with the specified HTML tag. Is that right? Yes?
Believe so.
No? Okay. All right, so I think we need to put those three because those are very common things, like the hyperlink text is super common as a case. So I think we need to put those three top there. These three. Do you agree? Is that reasonable? I mean, that's a fairly simple case, the elements with a specified HTML tag.
Yeah, I think those are easier to use. So
the CSS selector thing was going to be slightly complicated.
Yeah, I think the CSS selector and XPath are pretty powerful, but they're really hard to use.
Okay, which one should come first? The XPath? I think the XPath should come first. What do you think? Maybe just because I understand it a bit better than I understand the CSS selector.
I don't have a preference.
Okay, so how will we describe the XPath? Elements on the
we could write out
on the XML path. Something like that. Elements matching the specified CSS selector pattern. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The CSS selector pattern. I don't think we need to say this. I mean, this is pretty obvious.
Right. So I moved the links down to the related links. So I think those, we could probably remove a lot of those.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Okay. Web execute allows the following general commands. Okay, so let's put the window size, which are rather straightforward. Let's put the JavaScript execution at the very end. Makes sense? Because it's a really fancy thing.
Okay.
Okay, so now, yeah, that makes sense. Window size. Get the current window size as width height. Correct? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. Set window size. Set the current window size. Okay. Focus the web page on an element. What does that mean?
So if you have like a text box, it might have focus.
Why aren't we putting that up here? That's along with click, right? Why isn't that along with click and type?
I think it makes sense in that section too.
So it's like focus element, right? Instead of click element, it would be focus element. It's the same element story. It's like select, right? It's like put focus on this element.
Does that make sense to you, Simon?
Actually, this is focus frame. I'm trying to work on it, but it is not actually focusing on the element.
Well, what is it doing? How do you focus on an element? Because there's got to be a way to focus on an element. Just as a
only this function needs some conclusion. Like I think I need to work on.
Okay, so should we futurize it for now?
Yeah, focus frame, only focus frame. Except that all the other things are working.
Okay, but so shouldn't we have something here that says focus element?
Okay.
Do you know if they have, if that's that should be possible?
Okay. Well, why don't you look at that? I mean, I'm just. Okay.
I know one thing, element screenshot is there. We can take a screenshot of a particular element that is there.
Okay, but let's go through the rest of these, okay? So type an element, type text into an element on a web page, e.g. an input field. Okay, fine, that's fine. Click an element, that's fine. Type an element, that's fine. Okay. Submit a form. Why is the element there? Why do you need the element? If there's a form, am I confused?
Yeah,
Can there be multiple forms?
even on the form, that's the space is defined by the element. So
okay, all right. Submit a form using the specified element.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In other words, that's the submit button, e.g. a submit button.
Yeah.
I'm going to change a button. Okay, hide element. What does that mean? Make an element invisible.
Yes.
What does it mean?
It makes it, so it hides it. Like if you go into Chrome and do hide elements, it'll no longer appear on that web page. So it just kind of toggles visibility.
Okay, we're going to put this way higher than that, right? The hover. So that should go with click, right?
Right. They're similar.
Since you just told me that it isn't simulating, it's actually clicking. It's actually hovering too.
Yeah. But I think click and type should be together, but hover, show, and hide should be together as it is an appearance of the element.
But hide is something completely different. I mean, this is an action that a person could take just clicking around with their mouse. This is not something a person with a mouse can do.
Yeah, hover can launch actions too. So it's a little bit like click in that it can start things or do things.
But these things down here, I think it's like element name. Okay, whether the element is selected, whether the element is enabled. Okay, so let me just understand these things. So the hide and show are things you can only do with a WebDriver. You cannot do them yourself on a web page, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes the browser might have tools that'll do it, but it's not.
Okay, so I recommend that we put these two next here after submit before we go into the hide and show stuff, because they're, again, things which are closer to the consumer level.
Maybe all four of those then, because they're kind of informational.
Well, the next two, element name and element text, are both now diving down into the entrails of the page, so to speak.
I see.
Right. Okay. Whether an element is selected, whether an element is enabled. The HTML tag. Well, why isn't that called element tag? Why is it called element name?
I think we've been calling it tag name. So it's just
Well, we just changed that to tag down here.
Yeah.
So can we make that change? Element text. The text, associate text, if any, associated with an element. So I assume that the text referred to here for a hyperlink will be that same text that you're searching for in the hyperlink text arrow, whatever, correct?
I believe that's the case.
You should confirm that.
But this element text can be accessed through any of those 5 methods, not only hyperlink text, but any of those 5 methods.
I'm sorry, what do you mean? Yeah, but I understand, but I'm simply saying that if you go to a hyperlink and you say element text of that hyperlink, right, then what you get back, you will be able to feed back into hyperlink text and it will work. True?
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
I'll check that. I think so.
Okay, fine.
A new idea I got. Okay.
Execute a string of JavaScript code. Specified string of JavaScript code. Okay, let's move on to the next page here. So we've done web execute. Now we did web. Did we do web start web session? No, the web session object isn't used to control a web browser. That creates a web session that can be controlled, that represents a web browser being controlled by web execute. Is that right?
Yeah.
Putting up a visible browser window on the screen. Okay. Okay, fine. We just went through this. Okay, web execute. Web session object, start external session. Okay, that looks good. All right. Okay, next on our page we have, did we look at web session object?
I think only briefly in earlier meeting.
Okay. Represents a web browser session. Okay. It's a slightly strange. Is web session, someone is asking, a Wolfram variant of virtual DOM, as in React? My guess is the answer is yes, but can somebody comment on that?
I'm less familiar with virtual DOM.
We should ask. I'm going to add it as a speculative keyword here, okay? And you're going to find out whether it's actually correct. And why don't you ask Jan, who's an expert on such things? In fact, has Jan ever seen this stuff?
I don't think so.
You should make sure he sees it before we actually ship this out, just to check that he doesn't have anything, there's no oh my gosh. Okay, $current web session. Oh, that clearly needs to be that. Sorry, that should be the that's like the very first thing probably here. Ooh, that's weird. Something really weird happened there. Something weird happened. Carla, this is for you, I think. I don't think I can fix this. Well, let's see if I can fix it. Yeah, that should point to $. I have to say, I think this $current web session is a little weird. I mean, I guess this is the analog of, what is that the analog? It's the analog for start external process, is that right? Start external, what is the analogous thing to start web session? Start external, what is it? Start external session? Am I making
Yeah.
sense? Start
Sure.
external session.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Of Python, for example. By the way, there's some. Okay, so that's going to start a Python. Oh, come on. What does that mean? Running on update in progress. Why don't you capture that?
It is an odd one. I'll take a picture.
Yeah, take a picture, debug it. Okay. What is that? It is set to none. Oh, okay. When the session corresponding to that is closed with delete object, $current web session is set to none, right?
Great.
Okay, that looks reasonable enough. Okay, is there a guide page for these guys? Have we found that?
I don't think we found that.
Okay, so we're going to get to that in a minute. Let's look at domain registration information first. Okay. Okay, so domain registration. Why isn't that auto-completing?
This might only show up on prototype.
Okay, so what do? We say wolfram.com here. And we're waiting. What are we waiting for? Should we be giving some kind of, okay. Okay,
So-
have we gone through, so did we reorganize this?
You mentioned a few changes which I relayed to Chris, which were to make the events and registration dates closer to the top, and then also change the country and state to entities.
So this has not been done yet, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay, so when is that going to get done?
It has been done, and it's just not. I don't think it's reflected in the build yet.
Okay, great. Hi. Can you show us on your screen, Chris? Or could you send me a screen capture?
I can share the screen.
Okay, go for it. Could you? It was beautiful. It was perfect. Yeah, that's great. So are those official names like admin organization? Is that an official term?
That's the kind of the usual way they've got like one for usually that's kind of how they have how the people who how they kind of structure things at admin.
Okay, but so hold on.
Contact.
I don't think events is the right term for this first thing here. And by the way, why does creation date show up in black here when all the other keys are showing up in gray? Suggests the structure isn't quite right somehow. So I mean, the thing one wants, I guess. Okay, what I would suggest we do: domain name at the top, then registrant. Okay.
Okay.
Then I would just have separate lines for creation date and updated date as separate things here. I I think. I don't know. I mean, for some purposes, you don't care about that, and for some purposes, that's important. What other events could there be? Could there be any other events?
I think I've seen other ones before, but I mean, sometimes you have multiple like updated dates. I've going back somewhat historic. I think I remember seeing stuff like that, but
okay, let's try something more exotic. Let's try, for example, wolfar.am. Okay, that doesn't look good. Okay, so what happened there?
It's generally hard to parse, universally. All with this different TLD, the kind of servers that we're contacting have different formats, and in this case, it couldn't handle the .am format, the formats associated with this new domain.
So isn't there a general pattern? I mean, hasn't somebody compiled the patterns of these?
The problem is some of the domains are different. So like,
okay, so let's try. Okay.
Forms.
So, so which ones can we handle? So let's try NATO.int.
International like that?
Yeah. Splarf. Okay. Oh, look, and wait. Look. In that address there, Rue Grande, whatever, that looks like it's a bad character encoding.
Yeah.
So that's another problem. Okay. All right, let's try, what are some other ones that we know? Let's try something like...
It's probably going to only work for the VeriSign, ComNet org, I think. It's
okay. So, but what is the form of some of these other ones? Because obviously, registry resolver response. So I don't quite understand then why we are even trying to parse it. If it's so hopeless to parse.
It's not. There's been other solutions. It's basically, this is just a subset of what has been done. There's
okay, but then what we should do, instead of just returning an error like this, presumably what we should do. Okay, so what you're telling me is this is the raw string. So if you scroll down here, is it the case that okay, registrar response? What does that mean? What do those mean?
Well, it was unable to find a referral to contact the registry, so it gives up at only trying to resolve, what registry to go to talk about, NATO.int. So the registry that handles the .int, it couldn't resolve that.
Well, how does it know? I mean, if it can't resolve the registry, okay, what did it do to get this response? The registry resolver response. What does that actually mean?
Here, it talks to IANA.whois.IANA.org, and they've got a directory set up for every TLD. Here's the registry you go to, and this is basically what it's doing. And
okay, so wait a minute. So then, why was it not able to figure out what whois server it went to?
So it has a secondary list of servers that it gets from the first server. So if one of those doesn't come back correctly, I'm not quite sure why it didn't in this case.
Okay, but so a couple of questions, right? So am I to understand, okay, so in terms of what's here, like these address lines, etc., is that the same form as a VeriSign one, or is that different?
I think I think generally VeriSign they'll be different, I think, and yeah.
Okay, so have we looked? Has somebody curated all of these? I mean, there aren't that many TLDs.
Yes, in that well, I mean, it's not just TLDs. It's kind of like it's not just TLDs. It's like when you have registries but then you also have registrars, and they've got their own, every Whois server you talk to is going to have a different format, and that has been compiled, and it's called Ruby Whois, and that's been compiled, and then there's others that kind of like Python Whois is an existing solution, and they've got more sophisticated parsing abilities, and they get a higher percentage of matches generally from different TLDs, and they don't have a differentiated per Whois server. They just try to grab what they can, and so that's just what the existing solutions are, namely.
I think this is going to require more thought. I'm not sure. I mean, one of the things that's clearly useful, for example, finding out what country. Okay, so we can go back. Let me go back to my screen if you can unshare. So I mean, a typical thing somebody's going to want to do is to find what country. I mean, this, my most obvious question would be, what country is this in? Right? But now, in the way you've got this set up right now, I would have to go registrant country like that. Is that correct? No. How does that work?
It would be keys of the return of domain registration information.
Like this. Why is it taking so? Okay. And that you've now canonicalized that to actually be, at least for these VeriSign ones, to actually be.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, oh boy. I mean, to me, the most obvious things people are going to want are the country, the organization, those kinds of things. I mean, this kind of stuff, like the abuse contact phone number, those are pretty obscure. Wait a minute, why is the expiration date? So that's not part of the creation date, and the updated date are not connected to the expiration date?
I think that's the time. I think that's the expiration date for the registry. They don't expire, but I think at some point they've got to renew some kind of agreement they have with IANA or something. But that's particular.
Oh, okay. So that's of the registry. That's not the date when this registration of this domain name will expire. Is that correct?
I think so. I think that's right.
What does it mean, language?
Well, if it was able to handle more than the VeriSign things, you could have varying languages.
I think we've got more to understand here. Garrett, have you dug into this to try to understand? But I mean, also, have we talked to the sysadmin group about this, since they live this stuff all the time?
I think we talked to them about it a little bit. We had a meeting scheduled for it, but I'm not quite sure what happened. I think they may have looked over it.
Okay, so we actually don't know. So look, the people who should be involved are Eric Schacht, who deals with domain names for us, right, and who will have seen endless ones of these. And I don't know who Warren would suggest in sysadmin, who's seen endless ones of these. Does that make sense?
It was Chris Smith. It was suggested that Chris Smith.
Okay, fine. Yeah, it sounds like he's the right person. Yeah.
I think we did ask Eric Schacht about it, and he seemed okay with it. Is that right, Carla?
That doesn't seem convincing. Then He wasn't asked correctly. All right, this needs more work. I think we're not going to get this nailed right now. What should we do? We could put this function in, but not document it, is my suggestion for this version. But we're not going to get this done this quickly. That sound okay? I mean, I think the, we just need to, maybe you can get me, maybe you should do a meeting with those people first. with the question of what do people actually want to get out of these results, and how can we do better at globally making it work. And if it isn't going to work globally, we need a better way to return things. For example, we need a raw return, raw string element to this, making sense? That would then get filled in, and these other elements would not be just be missing, not available. Does that make sense? Rather than giving just an error condition there. Do you get what I'm saying? So in other words, it's a data set with the raw string in it.
That makes sense to me. Does that seem reasonable?
So having a data set of the the raw response. I'm not quite clear.
I'm saying include the raw response in the data set. If you cannot parse the raw response, then the only thing in the data set that will be interesting is the raw response, and all the other things will say missing, not available. Do you get what I'm saying?
Okay.
That would be what I would do, rather than having something where it's an error condition and you've got to go, track that down. All right. So look, for this version, let's not document this. We can put it in, but don't document it. All right. Very quick look at external function now, if we could. And then, Carla, you're remembering we have not knitted the guide pages for those web things.
Yes.
Okay, so so external function, does this work? No, it's probably not going to work for me because I've got some busted configuration here.
Great.
That one did work. Okay, so then that is a Python function that can presumably do absolute values. Oh, great. What's that? Also, this is unclear. Why is this saying it doesn't have an argument structure here?
Yeah, something weird is happening because those aren't the same attributes that I'd expect to get back. I can.
Okay, so something is wrong here. Okay,
Yeah.
The lambda. Okay, this is the lambda. No, this isn't a lambda. What is this?
So there's a few different ways you might want to specify a lambda. So you could do a lambda, by which you mean like an actual Python lambda like that.
Yep.
Where you may want to use it to evaluate. Or you could say, if we want someone to be able to enter a definition into a function, kind of lambda that
By the
way.
way, I do think that this is a very big, this is a graphic design thing. I would recommend we reduce the size of that icon a bit. It's kind of dominating the whole page. That's a color. That's something you could talk to graphic design about, please.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, I'm sorry, but so what is this? I don't know what.
So that was meant for a little bit more for the external function repository. If we wanted to add it into there, then people may want to add their own kind of definitions for functions. And if you wanted something like that, then the easiest way to do it is to have the definition as part of, as a way to specify the external function you want to have. So this is kind of that method.
I am totally confused. I'm sorry. I'm totally confused. Why?
So if I want to send this to someone on another computer, just the code of this.
But you could send the lambda as well.
Right. So
what do you want? I'm confused. If this is defining a function, that function will be permanent in that Python session, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's a completely different thing here that we're doing. I would recommend. What the heck is this? So what happened here?
That's a bug I've been looking at. I think that one's resolved, but we're working on updating that.
Okay. I think I'm going to have to look at this one more time. And what happened to the stuff that Christopher was doing with library link and external function? Is that in any way making it?
I don't think the C version is that far along.
Okay. Someone's asking is, will external functions work with Python 3 and the TK GUI plotting operations? I don't know. Will it work with Python 3?
Yeah, it should work with both 2 and 3. I don't know about the plotting operation specifically, but it should work as long as it works with any functions.
So someone is asking, if you have a Python function like range of 10,000, will it convert? Well, I can't run anything here, but that's already working. That you can just say, that's, I don't know Python. So I mean, if I say external evaluate, how is this? I mean, the question is this converting to text, or is it? How does this work? They use the same name. Isn't that cute? How is this doing the transfer? Is it with WXF or what?
So the transfer back is WXF, and then it gets converted into Wolfram Language. So there's a serializer that Dorian worked on. That's part of the Wolfram Python client libraries, and that kind of interprets what the type is.
No, but there's on the Python side, there is conversion from its internal data structures to WXF. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And so WXF is the format that gets moved over, so it's not text in any way.
Right.
So then the question here, okay, so somebody's commenting non-efficient memory sharing is the biggest problem here. So what will happen with the library link stuff? Doesn't that allow memory sharing?
So that would be more for the C function case. I don't know if we'd do any kind of library link direct connection with Python. It might, if we were to connect it into the same process, you might be able to use shared memory and get it to go a little bit faster. But at the same time, that opens you up to crashing.
Yeah, of course, it'll just crash. But that's okay if you're running it as a headless, as just a separate process. It's fine.
Yeah. It'd also be remarkably tricky because you'd have to. You normally build those into the same executable, so you'd have to do things like loading.
There are all kinds of comments here. We're probably not the right team to be talking about these comments about Apache Arrow data frame support. And okay, so the complaint is that running external evaluate with range of 10,000, the claim is this claims to take a second. So what's it doing? Anybody know? What's that doing? Is that a question for Dorian?
That's probably for Dorian.
Okay, so we should ask him.
Guess
is
that it doesn't know the type of every element, so it might be converting each one back individually.
That seems very bizarre. Why don't we ask Dorian? Carla, can you ask Dorian, please?
Yes, we'll do.
I mean, maybe it's just a bug of some kind, because it should be blindingly fast. It's just converting a native Python list thingy into a WXF list. Someone is claiming that it's converting to JSON, but I don't think that's the case. And someone is asking for seamless pandas.
I think in the old version it was JSON. I think it's been updated to WF.
Okay. So maybe in version 12. Oh, because that's probably different. So this is running in 11.3. So if I try running it here, it'll probably fail completely because.
Yeah,
What just happened there? What happened there?
Well, you have it suppressed, so.
No, I understand, but you think it might be. So something is wrong here, right? So this is much slower than 11.3. Am I making sense? So something is wrong. Yeah. Wrong group of people here to address this. Yeah, it's the wrong group. Oh, it's zero origin. Fancy that. It's a mistake. Anyway, Okay. All right. I think we have to wrap this up. So we've still got external function. We still have a little bit to look at there. We've got knitting to do. And for goodness sake, let's figure out what's happening with the speed problem. Okay. And if you can let me know, Carla, what you find out about that. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to Dorian.
Okay. For those who are on the live stream, thanks for participating in this. We are actually going straight to another live stream about machine learning. We're talking about unsupervised machine learning functions like anomaly detection and so on. So I hope to see you there.